Welcome, Jawa assholes, to Geek Salad's Retro Reviews from the Geek Salad Podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
And behind the show is
Todd. Hi.
And we are continuing on the Season 1 reviews of The Mandalorian in our anticipation for October 30th, Season 2.
Yeah.
So we are covering tonight, Episode 2, The Child. The proper name for Baby Yoda, as we hammered in last week, where we continue with Mando's journey of finding this bounty and having just destroyed IG-11 and a whole bunch of other guys looking for the child. And
A whole bunch of other guys.
a whole bunch of other, yes, exactly.
And he starts off this episode by being all badass, taking on 3 Trandoshans at once,
Exactly.
and then he gets his ass handed to him by a bunch of Jawas.
Yep. It actually is really cool because, as I mentioned last week about this, just the call outs to other alien species. So for those of you who aren't in the know, the 3 Trandoshans are essentially 3 Bosks.
Reptile people, basically.
Yes, exactly. Oh, right, my egg sack.
Give me Bosk all day long. We talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about Empire. Bosk was my boy.
Yeah.
Or
Bosk is one of the more,
Lizard Man.
yeah. Bosk is actually one of the more interesting characters in the Tales from the Bounty Hunter and from Shadows of the Empire.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
He is such a dick.
Mm-hmm. Shadows of the Empire is the only expanded universe book I've ever read.
Really?
Yeah. Because I loved the video game. Loved it.
Okay.
Dude, you've got to check.
Soundtrack. The action figures for that were pretty great.
Yeah.
That was just right in my wheelhouse at that time. So
You need to check out the Heir to the Empire trilogy.
all right.
Yeah.
So good.
All my copious amounts of free time, I will do that.
It will never happen cinematically, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And we did get drawn for Rebels out of it. So
We did.
yeah, definitely worth your time, Todd.
Okay.
But episode 2, what are some of our initial thoughts about this? Mike, Todd?
This one is pretty much taking, the Mandalorian at the end of episode 1, he'd gotten his bounty. He was on top of the world, and here he's basically goes from here all the way back down to here. And he's got to climb his way back up.
He gets beat up a lot in this one.
Yes.
He really does. He really does. This feels like a true part 2 to the, like a 2-parter, episode 1 and 2. This is really just the conclusion of that first episode. And,
Yeah.
I feel like it does a nice job of wrapping, answering some questions while wrapping some things up and then setting it off on the new, the new adventure later on.
Yeah. And
in a sense, this is actually kind of part 2 of a 3-part premiere, basically.
That's true. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. The entire series is broken up into 3 acts.
Yeah.
The first acts are chapters 1 through 3. And, Todd's point, this is just kind of an extension of the pilot. This is essentially what most TV does, where your pilot is essentially 2 episodes long.
Yeah.
This here is that. But then chapter 3 would be the end of Act 1. Act 2 are the 3 episodes that really are just the continuing adventures.
The very standalone episodic.
What's that?
Very standalone and episodic.
Yeah, and then 7 and 8 are the conclusion to the series, or season rather, which are more connected to 1, 2, and 3.
But with elements of 4, 5, and 6 in them.
Yeah. There are characters that return and all that. There's definitely a through story throughout the entire thing, but to Todd's point, this is definitely it's just pilot part 2.
Yeah.
Not to say that there's anything wrong with that.
Right. That doesn't mean it's not good. It's a very, very satisfying episode, especially when the Jawas come in.
Jawas are like one of those, you never really stop to think about the Jawas in terms of how they're kind of like how their communes work, how their society works, and just we've never seen really inside the operating end of a sandcrawler before. So essentially, the fact that they're still using megaphones and tubes to talk to each other is really, really cool. And we also finally get to see the disintegrations.
Yeah, we get to find out what that badass rifle does. And now we know why Darth Vader was so specific to Boba Fett, no disintegrations.
Do you think that's actually going to come up, that might have been Boba Fett's? Because now that we know that the holiday special is canon, thanks to Chapter 1, and Boba Fett had that big disintegrator ray.
Well, he had one of them. I'm sure there have been multiple guns like that.
Yeah, but you got to tie. I mean, it's Star Wars. Everything's got to tie together. It's not like people can't be related to each other, right?
Right.
They don't have to be.
All right, Mike Papaltine. Then,
hey, that's Mike Kenobi to you.
But I loved it. I loved watching Mando having to scale the sandcrawler and just watching these. Just the Jawas aren't great fighters. And it's a lot of fun watching them die.
Well, they just like chuck stuff at him.
Yeah. What do you do when you're in a rolling trash can? You throw junk at them.
Junk. That's all you do.
Yeah.
He gets to the top and he just bunch of Jawas with stun guns on him, and he gets his ass handed to him on a plate.
Yeah. I really like that. I also love they build the bond very early for Mando and the child when he gets injured fighting the Trandoshans, and the child tries to heal him with that Jedi healing, which never existed prior to this. But I'm not going to complain about it because I love Star Wars.
Which is it's funny because upon second and third watching of this series, I didn't know that that's what the child was trying to do in that first, first watching, and then going back and rewatching it, I was like, oh yeah, he's trying to heal. He's trying to do the magic hand thing.
Yeah,
that Grief talks about later. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, I really like it. Was just a nice little bit. The fact that he keeps getting out of his carriage is really interesting as well.
Also, like, what would you have given for a floating baby carriage, Andy? Like, would have been amazing. Like, let's just
made my life a whole lot easier on escalators.
Yeah, that you can control with your gauntlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baby's crying.
Close it up.
So this is a really fun episode. I remember watching on the Mandalorian Gallery on Disney Plus that is it pronounced Fujiwara? The director,
Rick Famuyiwa.
Rick Famuyiwa, who is he's a guy essentially my age who was a kid when Star Wars came out, and just being able to play in this sandbox, literally in this sandbox, was a lot of fun for him, and I could feel that excitement listening to him talk about and being able to incorporate things from the original trilogy in there, like the Sandcrawler, like the Trandoshans. Just having an Ugnaught in there is always a good thing too. But
also, it was. I mean, yeah, you see the start of the Mandalorian and the child bonding, but right now, I mean, it's Mando's like at the start of the episode, Mando was very much like, yeah, okay, I don't know what this kid is. There's stuff about it, but whatever. He's my bounty. I'm just trying to keep him safe until I can offload him. It wasn't until the fight with the Mudhorn that things started to click for him.
Well, and that's the other thing with revealing that the child is in fact force sensitive, which essentially means that everybody in that species is force sensitive.
Well, that we've seen, yes.
Yeah, but it was a really cool it was a really cool. Not only was it a really cool reveal, but the way they handled it after the fact, that it just took so much out. It tuckered the little guy out.
Mm-hmm.
It's nap time.
Yep.
And no, go ahead.
Good.
Well, I also like the fact that, like when Mando and Queel are talking about it afterwards, he's like, he just seemed to stop it with him. Like none one of them has ever had any experience with the Force before.
Right.
I mean, this is a universe where the Jedis have all been killed like probably 30 years prior, and even before then, Jedis were fairly rare. I mean, when one shows up on your planet, it's like a big deal. So, none one of them really have had any experience with the Force or Jedi before. So when this kid can, like, this little child can lift a mudhorn in the air with only his mind. I mean, it's like, what the hell is going on here? What is this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it had to be completely shocking to Mando and to Queel. So.
Well, it also makes a lot of sense too when you advance out to like episode 7, that people don't believe that the Force actually existed, and you can kind of see that it's kind of like this underground shadowy thing. It's not like all the villagers or anything are singing the songs of the hero Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things that it just. I think it builds a really good continuity in the fact that they're forgotten heroes. The Empire, while decimated, still has like these small little splinter cells that are around trying to maintain like local order. And I don't think that by the end of this entire series we're going to see the seeds planted for the First Order. But it is interesting to see that the Empire just didn't go away because they blew up the second Death Star and Palpatine was killed.
Yeah, they never went away. They were always present, always lurking.
Right.
Just because the president got killed doesn't mean that all the little governors are not trying to grab all the power that they can.
Well, that's the beauty of having all those Moffs. Those Moffs are essentially regional governors.
Yeah.
And it just creates a power vacuum, which is in a lot of cases worse than just having one monolithic villain. Now you've got like these little things. So even if, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, if Mando ends up dispatching of Moff Gideon at the end of season 2 or whatever, there's always going to be another one to take his place.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Stormtroopers are still very much a part of this universe. Really, I like that. I like that they're taking this in a way where it's not just, it's a new enemy we have to fight now.
Mm-hmm.
So cut off one head and another one will take its place. El Hydra.
Cobra! I mean, other than that, the parlay that Quill and Mando have with the Jawas was pretty fun.
They don't like you. Oh, I may have disintegrated a few.
It's great.
Actually, it was cool too that we actually got subtitles for them speaking, which was, we've never gotten that. It's just that like that. Weird,
Suga.
The egg.
Yeah, we just had Utini, right?
Yeah.
What does Utini mean? I don't know.
We don't know, but the egg. Oh my God, the egg.
The hairy Cadbury cream egg.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh God, I've never felt so all right, so we're all egg eaters, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I mean,
right. I like my eggs. I like my eggs over easy with a runny yolk. I just can't imagine sticking my hand into that. Like,
yeah. So I'm the opposite. It's like scrambled or nothing, right? Don't break the yolk. Ugh, I can't do it. So watching that scene completely disgusted me. Completely.
Yeah, for me, it's either scrambled or over very, very hard. I don't want any. If the yolk is runny, I don't eat it.
Oh,
is it nothing? Nothing ruins it more than runny yolk.
You take all the runny yolks and just eat them up. Just do it somewhere far away from me.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's like I will dip toast, I will dip hash, bacon, sausage. I will do any of that, but I'll even mix it in with like those English baked beans, like the tomatoey baked beans.
I can't hear this. I can't listen. Oh.
But watching them stick their hands in it, on the other hand, I'm like, oh, I hate when I like. It's like that stickiness. It's just that visceral feel. You get like, get it out of my hands.
I think it does show something about the Jawas, though, and one of the things that I really liked about this is in the beginning of the episode, it showed more of the scavenger nature of the Jawas. Like we saw them essentially just steal R2-D2 and C-3PO, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty much all we've seen of Jawas, but they're actual like scavengers. They scrap for parts, and they took apart the Razor Crest. So that was cool to see. And then you think about what would be a fair trade for the ship, and it's a snack. Like that's insane. That's it, and it was such a cool reveal for as gross as it was. I really liked the reveal that they're just looking for a snack.
Yeah.
I mean, in order to get that snack though, they would have to go through a mudhorn. I'm guessing that probably doesn't happen all that often. So this is probably a snack they've wanted for a very long time and have been unable to do it. Mm-hmm. So they send the Mando in, he either dies and they get all the parts, they keep all the parts, or he beats the mudhorn and they get an egg. Either way, they come out ahead.
It's honestly like me trying to find Cadbury cream eggs after Easter.
Yeah.
Have fun with that.
Always the first to go. Always the first. But I mean, overall, I like this episode a lot. It's tough because I almost kind of feel like we could have added this to last week's episode and just talk straight about this. I mean, quite honestly, we could have done the third one as well, even though I think when, not to get too far ahead to next week, but when we talk about chapter 3, there was a lot going on in this one than that one. This one here is more one story. I just get my parts, get off the planet.
I mean, like, there's so much that happened in the first episode and so much that happens in the third episode. This one is very much a kind of a breather, a quiet moment, let you take your breath. Got some fun things with the Jawa, got a new cool action scene with the Mudhorn, and you got mystery with the child. But other than that, it's a breather.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
A little palate cleanser, getting you ready for the next,
right.
What comes next, essentially.
Oh,
one of my favorite episodes of the series. So the next one. This one's good, but the next one.
This is a really fun episode. This is, to me, I think what it checks the box off of the most is the nostalgia aspect of this. That there's so many pieces of Empire and A New Hope in there, even though they're not the same characters, but getting the Jawas, getting the Sandcrawler, getting the Trandoshans, getting an Ugnaught, getting those things really is what make the episode really grand to me. And just watching a being much smaller than Mando be able to lift something so much larger than itself. And this is this episode is very reminiscent of all those little pieces from Empire.
Yeah, the very first thing I thought of when the child started using the Force was Yoda lifting the X-Wing out of the swamp. Judging about my size to you. Like, it brings it all back to that epic moment in Empire.
Yeah, absolutely. And
again, the music was so different than John Williams. I mean, you didn't get the Yoda Force theme, but it was different, but it still worked very well, I thought. I kind of preferred the music in the first episode more than this one, but it's still really a really good score.
I think this one, again, because it's essentially part 2 of the pilot, you're still easing yourself into the fact this is nothing like the Williams score or anything that followed. If you're talking the music in the cartoons or the 2 Star Wars stories, the fact that we're still getting used to the Ludwig Göransson sound it's not jarring by any means. And by the end of this episode, you kind of know that this is where we're going musically with it.
Absolutely.
But I have no problem with. I really love this this soundtrack.
Yep. Same. You know, one of the things that struck me, and I haven't watched all of the gallery yet, but you know, reading about Mando and how it was Pedro Pascal only for maybe a third of the time in the suit, in the armor, and it was his two stunt doubles that really kind of created the character with him. And I think this is an action heavy episode for Mando with the Mudhorn fight, with the Sandcrawler fight. I wonder how much of it is Pedro Pascal versus Brendan Wayne and the other guy. I don't remember his name, but it's crazy to think that they were able to create a character with as much personality as they did, not showing his face at all, and having it not even be the guy you think it is for the majority of the season. That's crazy.
Right.
I guess when it was like doing like the gunslinging, that was one stunt double, and when they was doing like the more like action physical fights, that was another stunt double. And when it was just like talking and like just walking and all that, then was Pedro Pascal.
But you think, like, you know, having seen Pedro Pascal and other things, he's more than capable of doing a lot of that, you know, physical work. But you know, a lot of it was very intense. The fight choreography that he was doing in Game of Thrones was really good. I mean, I can imagine that because he's wearing the suit, and it's also really is kind of a different form of combat. For sure.
But no, you're right though. It's like all three of these guys came together, because there's not one point when I doubt that it's not the same person.
Yeah,
it's the same person, you know, throughout. Doesn't matter who's in the suit. And I know definitely for a fact that Pedro Pascal definitely did the sit down when he had to sit down and parlay with the Jawas. That totally was him. I don't need a stunt double for this one. I'm good.
I can throw a flamethrower at the Jawas. I'm cool.
Good.
I love that, by the way.
Oh, the flamethrower is great.
It's just the fact that, you know, there are times when he can still be a petulant child. And it's just like, you know, he's just going to use his fists to get out of anything.
But to be fair, the Jawas were kind of asking for it.
They really were.
They
really were.
Yeah.
But it is one of the first times where you hear about weapons being part of their religion, which I think was pretty cool reveal. Because I don't know, I haven't watched all of Clone Wars, I haven't watched all of Rebels, so I don't know a whole lot about Mandalore and the Mandalorian, you know, religion. So that was an interesting little tidbit,
right,
that they dropped there.
I'd actually be interested in seeing how that goes too, because, you know, this is the first time that we've ever really seen that they're not allowed to take their helmets off. You know, in Clone Wars and in Rebels, they take their helmets off all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, you go back to episode 2, Jango Fett was taking his helmet off all the time.
Right.
You know, like I was saying, like in our last episode, it seems like after like the events of the Clone Wars and after the events of Rebels, after like the purge of Mandalore, as they mentioned it in the last one, seems like a lot of them realized we got to go underground and we got to keep our identities hidden in order to keep existing.
Right.
So it seems like that taking off the helmet, that seems like more recent thing, probably within the past like maybe 5-10 years.
Well, again, it's, you know, and I guess you can argue whether or not Jango Fett was an actual honest to God Mandalorian and just didn't steal the suit, because I've heard that as a theory, and you know, Boba Fett essentially assumed that armor, so he might not even be a Mandalorian as well. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's what it is. I find it interesting that, you know, they can still walk freely among, just, you know, keep your head down in the very distinctive face mask.
I did like what they did with the armor in this episode, where the Mudhorn destroyed his armor, the integrity of his armor anyway. And that's one of my favorite scenes of the series in the next episode, which we'll talk about. But I really liked how they showed that it's not indestructible. And it wasn't Beskar, right? So it's not.
Just the shoulder.
It's the shoulder.
In the helmet.
In the helmet.
So
to see, you know, and I've always thought that about Boba Fett in the Sarlacc pit, like, he survived. I know he survives, but like how? And it could be the armor, it could be any number of things, but I like how they destroyed the integrity of his armor, leading to the next episode where he,
suits up again.
Suits up.
No, it is really interesting too, and that the armor is it's part of the rank, the ranks imposed on you, and again, this is a really fun episode. It's short. I mean, I was shocked that this episode was only like 35 minutes long.
If that, yeah.
The exact running time, but
give me a second.
Here we go.
All right, because when this came out the Friday, like days after Chapter 1 came out, and it felt weird because I was setting aside an hour to watch it. It's like, it's over already.
Yep.
Did you get a runtime on that, Mike?
There it was.
I got it up, I think.
It is,
30 minutes.
Yeah, well, if you go up to the beginning of the credits, it's only a little over 28 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, directed by Rick Famuyiwa here, and it's at 28:22.
Okay. You have the episode up, don't you?
I did.
Okay. Well, that's one way of doing it.
Nice refresher there.
Wikipedia tells me that this episode was nominated for 3 Emmys.
I believe it was. What were those 3 Emmys, Todd?
Outstanding special visual effects, outstanding single camera editing, and sound mixing.
All right.
So
yeah, this show cleaned up on technical nods, and I think it was nominated for best. The show overall, I believe, was nominated for best drama series.
It was, yeah.
Which is really interesting.
I'm happy about that. I think
well, this is also, I don't know if this is the first episode that employed the use of that room, that virtual room that they were using, or if that was actually done in the first.
I think they used it all throughout, but
right.
I know for a fact that during one of the episodes they show that trained ocean scene, and they showed how like a lot of the rocks were real, but pretty much anything beyond that was just all screen.
The new matte painting. Good
yes.
job. That's exciting.
I really actually think it's really cool that they're doing that now.
Right.
And I have a feeling that if we don't get out of this living nightmare anytime soon, this might be the way that people are going to start shooting movies.
So this is the way?
This is the way.
This is the way.
I have spoken.
Have you spoken?
And they both, this is the way I have spoken. They both mean essentially the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Which is cool. We also got just a little more peek into the Kuila's background. He says, I've gone through a lifetime of servitude to earn my freedom. I'm not going to give it up again.
Right.
Being your employee. But I do like the fact that Mando was like, I couldn't make it out of here without you.
Right.
At least let me give you some money.
Yeah, and he said no, and it's really Quill's an interesting character because of that. Because he seems to be in this show that is filled with nothing but
mercenaries,
rogues, mercenaries, and all other sorts of scoundrels. That there is one pure soul, the entire outside of the child. There's this one pure soul in this series, and it's Quill.
Yep.
Scoundrel, I like that.
Scoundrel, you'd like him.
Well, you guys have anything else to say about Chapter 2?
Only that we've gone longer than the episode has.
We have, actually. By this point right now, you're waiting, you're done with all the oil painting and the artwork. Now you're going to the technical credits, and in a moment, you're going to see all 5 of like the translation credits.
Yeah.
And Dansk. So, well, what are your thoughts on Mandalorian Chapter 2? Leave a polite comment down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Yes, do it for the child. Also, Mike, Todd, and I host a little podcast called Geek Salad. You can get us wherever you get your podcasts from. Follow us on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio, Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast, and don't forget to buy our merch at TeePublic using the keyword Geek Salad Podcast. So until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
I'm Todd.
Go forth, be nerdful, and this is the way.
This is the way. We have
We'll talk to
spoken.
you later.